Hi, my friends. Hey to you too, Chadwick. There, I said your name, okay? I gave you a shout out. Now quit calling me at all hours of the night. I need my beauty sleep. It's your tour guide to the wrestling side, me, Preston E. And on this video, we're going to have a look at the most disappointing surprises in WWE history. Before I get into the most disappointing WWE surprises, I will address that a lot of fans were disappointed upon Danhausen's initial appearance at the Elimination Chamber. However, I was not one of them. I am a Fanhausen, and I was expecting him to pop out of that box. However, I did not expect him to have a whole entourage, one of them being his wife too. And I think a lot of fans who were initially not into the debut got into old Danhausen once he made his appearance on Monday Night Raw and put a curse on old Dum Dum. And now they're starting to come around. But there's one thing. I think I've been cursed. I've been cursed by these freaking allergies lately and the pollen count. Excuse me. Where was I? There's one thing that has been definitely a curse over the years. Some of the WWE storylines, and we're going to look at some of the most disappointing ones on this video. Gotta hack this thing up first. Okay, I'm better now. I apologize. First up on the list is not a crate, but a cage. Back in 2020, remember that psycho year? Another psychotic thing happened. Eric Redbeard Rowan was saddled with a weird gimmick where he was carrying a mysterious cage around. He would talk to whatever was in this cage affectionately, and whatever it was, it conveniently had a camera with it, so we could see the POV of Eric's creepy mug looking inside the cage. Whatever was in this cage was shrouded in months' worth of mystery due to the fact that it was covered by a burlap-looking cloth. Whatever was in this cage was as crazy as early 2020 Vince McMahon's storylines were, because it bit some poor unfortunate jobber, making him bleed when they tried to take a peek inside. Speculations ran rampant for weeks. Was this Mercy the Buzzard in the cage, a decapitated head, or Hornswoggle? Mojo Rawley managed to get a peek of it first, and it threw him into a fit of hyped hysterics. Eventually, Rowan would reveal to the world, along with No Way Jose, what it really was: a giant tarantula. Actually, it was a robotic tarantula, and thank God for that, because I am severely arachnophobic. The robotic tarantula would soon meet its demise, though, when Drew McIntyre crushed it inside its cage. I prayed for this to happen, and the monstrosity was never brought up again. Now it was eventually revealed that the storyline was supposed to be a rat, much like Dustin Rhodes, a.k.a. Black Rain, had in TNA back in the day. Remember that? Pepperidge Farm remembers. An even crazier idea was being thrown around, that the cage contained a little woman in the form of actress Jodie Emga. Hey, Hornswoggle can't do everything. He would protect the American Horror diminutive damsel actress from the outside world. This was Rowan's idea, and it was quickly shot down. What we got was underwhelming, but in the grand scheme of wrestling storylines, it was a mere skid mark in the underwear that was quickly washed away. Moving on. Up next, we have the crazy case of Vince McMahon's murder. Back in 2007, Vince McMahon was having a self-congratulatory Vince McMahon Appreciation Night on Monday Night Raw, where everyone from Steve-O to Donald Trump and a whole slew of wrestlers cut video packages on him, where most of them would wind up dissing him. McMahon catatonically walked backstage to close out the Monday Night Raw show to a perplexed group of wrestlers and Paul London, who was grinning like a crap-eating dog. McMahon would then proceed to go to his limousine, where he shut the door and was immediately blown up. That's right. This began WWE's version of Who Shot Mr. Burns. The WWE went all out on this too, talking about Vince McMahon's murder on their social media page. And they even fooled some pretty high-profile people, like our current president, Donald Trump. They even hired an actor to play lead detective Daniel Beck, who would question various wrestlers and personnel. And apparently someone in WWE is a SVU fan, because there is a character named Detective Danny Beck, played by actress Connie Nielsen. But anyway, I digress. I couldn't find any info on the actor who played Daniel Beck, the Vince McMahon murder lead detective, but he was gone from WWE TV in a matter of weeks, as the whole storyline was scrapped due to the real-life Chris Benoit family tragedy that happened in the summer of 2007. The original plan for this story was supposed to end up having Linda McMahon being the murderer, and she would be arrested on an episode of Monday Night Raw. Also read somewhere that Vince McMahon was supposed to have faked his death anyway and blamed it all on Linda to give everything he owned to his true son, Ken Kennedy. Speaking of Ken Kennedy, he was supposed to be the big reveal to be Vincent Kennedy McMahon's illegitimate son later that same year. However, plans was changed for this when Ken Kennedy violated the wellness policy, and the role of VKM's son was given to Little Horny. Hornswoggle in this role resulted in a goofy comedy bit, as Kennedy's involvement would have possibly jettisoned him to bigger and better things in the WWE. Speaking of Hornswoggle, Little Horny, I've got to stop calling him that, is the subject of our next disappointing storyline reveal. After Bret Hart was attacked in storyline in the parking lot, Vincent Kennedy McMahon announced a new GM to combat the growing threat of the rogue rookie group, the Nexus. In came an anonymous Raw GM who sent messages via annoying ringtone and email to an increasingly annoying Hillish Michael Cole. Cole's reading of the emails, and I quote, would get him more and more heat with each passing week. The anonymous Raw GM would drop red herring clues using wrestlers' catchphrases ranging from Roddy Piper to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Between June of 2010 to July of 2011, the Raw GM would annoy wrestlers and viewers alike, until it was eventually phased out in favor of COO Triple H and John Laurinaitis. The laptop, however, would still be visible by the announcer's desk between the period of July 2011 to November of 2011. However, the emails would never be heard again, nor would the Raw GM even be talked about during that time, leading some to speculate that it was John Laurinaitis who sent the emails to Michael Cole during that 1-year torturous period, since once Johnny Ace Laurinaitis showed up, the emails stopped coming. The storyline would lay dormant until July 9th, 2012 on Raw, as Detective Daniel Beck made his triumphant return. No, wait, that's actually Santino in a Sherlock Holmes hat. And Santino discovered it was Hornswoggle the whole time, Austin, who was sending emails from under the ring. It turned out that an idea was pitched for Hornswoggle to turn heel and to be revealed as a mobster-like boss with a Napoleon complex, seeking revenge on all WWE's stars who overlooked him and who bullied him. But he couldn't get the Jersey accent right, so the plan was scrapped. I also heard that it was pitched at one time for it to be Kevin Nash in his old Wizards hat, who was in TNA at the time. But the man behind the curtain, or the laptop as it were, was not the Wizard of Oz. It was the mayor of Munchkinland instead. The storyline briefly came back in 2014, and the crowd went mild as Swoggle became the poster boy of storylines gone awry. But it wasn't Hornswoggle who would become a fart in church reveal in the next disappointment surprise, because he wasn't even in the WWE in 1999. The higher power angle, to me, would be even wetter of a fart than the gobbledygooker who gets my nod for the runner-up in the most disappointing reveal surprise. In Survivor Series of 1990, two wildly talked about moments happened. One would go on to make history for all the right reasons. The other laid an egg. Undertaker would make his WWE debut at the Survivor Series on this night, but we ain't focusing on the good here. The giant egg, which was being hyped up for weeks by WWE, eventually hatched the hellspawn known as the giant turkey gobbledygooker, who would dance with Mean Gene Okerlund, much to the confusion and annoyance of the fans in attendance. Gooker was played by Hector Guerrero on this fateful night and would return at WrestleMania 17 in the gimmick Battle Royal. In 2015, Xavier Woods played him, with Drew Gulak donning the cursed costume in 2017 on 205 Live and at the Survivor Series in 2020. Gooker was a harmless flop of a fart that was never meant to be more than a Survivor Series mascot, though, unlike this final turkey. The higher power. Back to this huge disappointment. In 1999, The Undertaker was running roughshod all over the WWF and kidnapped Stephanie McMahon, tried to marry her in a dark wedding, and put wrestlers on a sacrificial sinister emblem, and he also burnt a teddy bear. Real sick crap. He would eventually claim he was answering to a higher power, and it was none other than me, Austin. That's right. It was Vincent Kennedy McMahon the whole time. He orchestrated his own daughter's capture, did all kinds of dark stuff, and all to stick it once again to his longtime rival, Stone Cold Steve Austin, made Jim Ross cuss, and bummed out all the fans. I read it was all supposed to be Christopher Daniels as the higher power, but this was a rumor, and it was also rumored that McMahon didn't like his size, so typical, and he thought he was too unknown to be giving orders to Taker, too. Jake Roberts could have been a very intriguing reveal, though. I heard speculations of him before as well. Since he and Taker had a past together dating back to 1991 and a storyline with the Macho Man and Elizabeth, it could have worked, but Vincent Kennedy McMahon donned the hood, and the rest, as they say, is history. And so am I. Did I leave out any disappointing surprises that you think should be added to this list? Let me know in the comments sections below. Thank you so much for watching. Gotta go.